Welcome to Spooky News from Spooky Ventures for March 17th, 2023. Yes, that's St. Patrick's Day, which you could probably get from my choice of hat for this round of the news. You know, St. Patrick's Day might not be considered particularly spooky, but there is a great history of spooky stories from Ireland, and Irish writer Sheridan Le Fanu was definitely a big influence on the modern horror tradition, so it fits. And besides that, who can forget the Leprechaun movies? So you can make your St. Patrick's Day a spooky one and do it with style. Before I get to the news, I want to remind you that Spooky Ventures, and particularly this YouTube channel, are supposed to be interactive, so please interact. You can do that by liking our videos, sharing them, commenting, or just getting in touch. We're always looking for suggestions for people we should interview or news items we should feature, so let us hear from you if you have any of that information. Secondly, remember that you can find the sources for these news items two places. First, you can see them in the details section of this video listing. Secondly, if you stay around after I'm done talking, I include them all at the end of this video. With all that out of the way, I'm going to turn to the news. We'll start with a couple of game news items. The first of those centers on a company I can't believe I have not covered here before. That's because the company is called Spooky Pinball. Come on, that is an obvious for me, right? Well, since I haven't covered them before, what put them on my radar now? They have a new Scooby-Doo pinball machine coming out, and they've released a gameplay video, and it looks really cool. So you have a spooky pinball company doing a machine based on the classic spooky cartoon from the 1960s. What's not to love about that? Keep your eyes peeled for the new machine, and in the meantime, you'll find the link to the video in the sources section of this particular video, so you can see it for yourself. The next story is all about games, but it also has a horror film connection. That's because Blumhouse, the company responsible for so many horror movies and television shows these days, is branching out into video games. They have formed a new division called Blumhouse Games. The company will be partnering with independent game designers to create new horror gaming experiences. The emphasis will be on the indie developers. Games developed will be across various systems ranging from consoles to PC and mobile devices. Our first true horror movie story for this edition of Spooky News is another tale of a crossover. This one centers around Guns N' Roses guitarist Slash. He's getting into horror films by launching his own production company called Berserker Gang. The rocker explained that he's always been a horror fan, and he says that the company's purpose is to create films that he'd like to see. Next up, how do you feel about the 1999 version of The Haunting? I know I'm pretty much definitely in the minority, but I've always been a big fan of the movie. Well, for those of you in that same camp, a treat is coming. That's because Scream Factory will be releasing a 4K Blu-ray of the movie at the end of May. Now, there's no information yet about any kind of bonus features that will be included, but it's just good to see the movie getting some love these days. A new trailer has been released for the upcoming Haunted Mansion movie from Disney. A remake of the 2003 film that starred Eddie Murphy, the new version has a lot of big names in the cast. The ones that stand out for me are Rosario Dawson, Owen Wilson, Danny DeVito, Jamie Lee Curtis, and Jared Leto. The movie is scheduled to hit theaters on July 28th. Our final piece of actual news is a sad one. Rico Browning, best known to horror fans as the man playing the creature from the Black Lagoon in the underwater scenes, has passed away on February 27th at the age of 93. He was the final remaining actor to play one of the main Universal monsters. He had a special significance for me because the creature from the Black Lagoon is my favorite of the Universal monsters. That brings us to the end of the actual news items for this time around. As always, I turn to the Spooky Ventures calendar here. You can find the calendar for yourself at the bottom of the Spooky Ventures website at spookyventures.com. There's a cool link there. Well, there is just one event this time, and that's the opening day of the film The Ghost Within. Now, that movie premieres today. I should be back with the next Spooky News segment sometime in April. But until then, remember, as always, keep it spooky. Spooky Ventures is the home for spooky content and spooky merchandise on the web. Check it out today at spookyventures.com. And remember, always keep it spooky.